And a lot of people are doing things now. And so we're going to look at that and ask each person to speak for no more than 5 minutes. So, Vicky, would you like to start on the land use group? Though I know you said a lot about that already.
Yes, thank you. I wondered whether people would like to hear someone else's voice than mine. But anyway, yeah, the land use group has been in I think we've about 2.5 years. We meet monthly, not always by Zoom. We have socials, which actually are quite fun. At the beginning of the report that we've just sent, we did actually tell any readers really, but it's possibly worth revisiting what our aims are, what we care about, and why we're here. And I thought perhaps as there are so many new people on this call, it might be worth covering that. So we've set out our interest is in the provision of high quality, adequate green space for all communities. We're particularly emphatic about the east of Enfield, which doesn't have the same amount of green space as the west, improving them for protection of wildlife and biodiversity, the provision of sufficient high quality, safe, sustainable living spaces for all our communities, improving the urban environment and protecting our heritage, and scrutinising the associated energy and carbon emissions within all those areas. So our membership, we have representatives from Better Homes in Enfield, a couple of representatives from EnCaf, Enfield Road Watch, some parks, and then we also have been able to call on experts, professionals. So for instance,
as you'll see in this,
farmers talking to us. We've been in contact with the countryside charity that used to be the CPRE. We've got planning professionals who've helped us. So, and also we're non-political, so we've had councillors from all parties helping us at various times. Our next steps are and that obviously that's what an AGM is about, is what we're planning to do. Our first job, now we've got the report finished about the climate action plan, is to look at the revisions to the national planning policy framework, to see whether we agree with them, what impact we think it'll have, and feedback to that national body. And then later on in the year, the big job that we will be putting our minds to will be the revised local plan. We did a substantial response to what's called the Regulation 18 plan, and we will be looking, and we were very critical of much of that, some of you will know, and we are really hopeful that the council has taken on board some of those criticisms, and the new local plan will be much more in line with what we as community activists and residents, we are all residents incidentally, would want to see. But that will be a huge job, because I think but at least we have got commitment from the council that they'll give us 12 weeks to think about the published documents and meet people, meet councillors, maybe go to forums and begin this proper, genuine engagement. The last time I think we had 6 weeks, but we lobbied and got 12 weeks. But it was thousands of pages of writing, and it is a big job. So if anyone wants to help as an expert or just join us sometimes, I feel sure we've got space for you, because we need readers as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. I mean, if anybody wants to join any of these activities, please contact the person who's talking about it, because that will be great. Okay, education, Maggie.
Sorry, just unmute myself. Hello, everybody. I am going to try and do this quite quickly, because Francis has already told you quite a lot about what we've been doing. I think the place we began from was a meeting that many of you may have been at in Southgate Library with Bambos, in which 2 teachers said that their students, secondary school students, had asked them, well, what is this climate change thing then? And we sort of think that all young people know, But because it's not covered in the national curriculum, it doesn't exist anywhere in the national curriculum. It's up to the schools really to decide whether they're going to cover it or not. So a few of us decided that we wanted to try and push this forward a bit in Enfield. In November 2021, Zoe and I set up the education group, and we had about 8 members. And we were very keen that we wanted to do something. We didn't just want to talk about it. So by Christmas, I think, we had decided that we wanted to raise the awareness in schools in Enfield of the climate crisis. And we wanted to do that by running a competition that children in schools could enter. We had one of the first things we did was had a look at what Enfield were already doing, and discovered that there is an absolutely amazing climate action handbook for teachers, but it is buried in an education hub, which teachers have to decide to go on to, decide to look for, wouldn't even know it's there. So there's this fantastic document that we were keen to advertise as well. We were lucky enough to have a donation from Anthony Fisher, which enabled us to do something that one of our teacher members said, which was, schools will probably go for this as long as it's not any extra work for teachers. So we thought, okay, if there's a film that teachers can show that tells kids about the climate crisis, what it is in an age-appropriate way, and then asks them to enter the competition, that would be a way to go. So I used to teach at Middlesex University and happened to know the head of film there, so got her to get some students to make 2 films, one for primary schools, one for secondary, which are still on the Global Net 21 YouTube and have had a lot of views, actually. We then got to the point where we were starting to advertise this to schools. We made some mistakes. Emailing every school in the borough takes an awful long time, and they don't look at their email. So that was a bit of a learning curve. We launched the competition in September, and it closed in October. We had posters and 1-minute films from schools across the borough, different age groups. And as Francis said, had a fantastic prize giving. The council, who had not been overly helpful in promoting the competition, actually were quite keen by this point and allowed us to use the
People's Palace.
Yeah, the thing they had before, yeah, the Palace Gardens thing that they had before the Dugdale came back on. And because of Anthony Fisher's generosity, we were able to get fantastic Friends of the Earth sweatshirts as prizes for the kids. So it was brilliant. Where we're going from here, not quite sure. Zoe, of course, has gone to Devon, and our committee had pretty well evaporated for various good reasons by the time the competition was in full force. There are, however, 2 things that I wanted to mention as things that we could try individually or together to promote. One you may well know about, which is the Green Schools Project. I'll put a link to that in the chat. This is something to encourage any schools that you're in contact with to take part in. And the other thing that individuals can do is to join the Climate Ed Ambassadors scheme. And again, I will put a link to that. And this is an opportunity for volunteers to be trained to go into schools to raise awareness. I think the thing that we've learned most of all from all this is that there are some schools which are doing fantastic, amazing work. And the question really is how to get that good practice known about and shared across the borough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. And we did a webinar with the Green School Project and with Climate Ed, and I'll put those up on the site. Well, they are on the site, but I'll make them more visible. And and I know both those organisations would be interested in coming to Enfield and helping in any way. And there's possibility we may have a meeting, though that's up for discussion at the moment. But if we do, obviously that would be really good. Right, Aurora, air pollution. You've done so much on that.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I have to correct you, Francis, that it hasn't been just me doing so much on that. I was part of the group and at various stages of the group, a lot of work has been put in by various people. Tony's here, Tony Nicolaidis, who helped a lot. Anne Jones, was very much involved, and there were a number of other people that Michael Metcalf and some Jenny Edwards. Yeah, so I'm not the only one. I'm just sort of like here to represent the collective work of the group. So this group came into being about 1.5 years ago, with the understanding that, of course, air pollution is just another facet of climate change and everything that it represents. And we had a number of aims, and these aims are ongoing. They haven't come to an end. First of all, we had to build some knowledge and expertise in the group because it's a very complex subject. It has various scientific aspects, and we had to learn about this not just generally, but also what's happening in Enfield in terms of what kind of data is available and what are the sources of this data. And then our other aims were to use this knowledge and facts that we gathered in order to raise awareness in the communities, in the different communities in Enfield, and therefore engage with them to see if we can all come to some kind of a campaign with various asks to Enfield and perhaps, generally, well, Enfield and also the Mayor of London. And the other aim was to engage with the council and to see if we can work together, perhaps even have a working group together. So this aim is a little bit more in the we haven't gotten very far with that, but with the other three, we made quite good progress. We now have a very good understanding of what is very good, very good based on the data that is available. And unfortunately, not what we can have from the official reports from Enfield is not altogether satisfactory, because the measurements, so a lot of the understanding of air pollution, what's happening, is dependent on measurements that are being done, mainly of nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter, although there are a number of other air pollutants that are of concern. And so what we found that there is insufficient sites to measure, to get a full picture. In particular, what was of concern is that there is very little measurements being done. There are very little measurements being done in the east of the borough. And the east of the borough is exposed to a lot of pollution, not only because of transport, because of having the A10, obviously the North Circular, and other important roads which are polluted by the transport, but also because there's a concentration of industrial sites, the incinerator included, and being number one, which actually we discovered not because of the reports from Enfield, but from reports published by the Mayor of London, that these industrial, the pollution from industrial sources industrial and commercial sources are equal to those coming from transport, and more or less they cover almost, they cover about 95% of the pollution that we have in Enfield. With regard to nitrogen dioxide, and also obviously the particulate matter is measured very little in Enfield. There's just one site that measures particulate matter, which is near the on Bowes Road, and that's the larger particles called PM10, but the smaller particles, which are of the greatest concern in terms of effects on health, which are called PM2.5, they are not measured at all in Enfield. So these are of great concern to us, and we would like to, I mean, we put it all already to the council that more measurements of particulate matter has to be done. The reply from the council's air quality officer was that they are not obliged by the government. So they are not obliged by the government to measure the fine particulate matter. And
Aurora, one more minute.
Okay. So anyway, these are some of the expertise that we've been building. We have written to the council because they reported about the because they produced an air quality action plan last year, and we commented on this plan. We got a reply to our comments, and just to say, the most interesting bit that we got there was an admission that there are very little resources which are allocated to this very, very important matter. So this is what we are planning to do in the future, is to develop and to have a list of clear asks to the council, and one of them is the need to allocate more resources. There's just one person who is dealing with all this issue, and nobody else. And basically, this is not right. There have to be more resources allocated by the council. We engaged with a number of groups, the Rumi Islamic Center, for example, Angel Community Garden, whom we supported to apply for a measuring device for PM2.5 and nitrogen dioxide. And anyway, this is ongoing. One of the things that we hope to do is to engage more with schools and to be part of the health and climate change hubs that are being developed. And also, my hope is that we can organize an exhibition on air pollution. And here I like to appeal to anyone, any creative people or people who are who know and are connected with other creative people to get in touch, because this could be a very exciting project to put forward in the future.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Aurora. I mean, you've done a lot of work with all your group, and that's really great. You mentioned the climate hubs in what you said, and we, as I said, did have some really successful climate hubs, and out of that came the view that, and this is the one in Forest Road, out of that came the view that we should continue those, and we should also develop climate cafes. Now we've got Jerry with us today. Jerry's from the Co-op Outreach Scheme, and she helped us a huge amount in the hubs, and she's very keen on developing that, and especially the idea of climate cafes. So over to you, Jerry.
Thanks very much, Francis. I'm fairly new to these conversations, but I must admit this has been a fantastic journey so far. From getting involved in the community hubs, first of all, the back end of last year. So my role with the co-op, without going into too much detail and boring everybody, is that I'm a member pioneer coordinator in the community and member participation team. And so I run teams of member pioneers who are community catalysts, connectors and communicators who are doing great things in the community, bringing people together to fulfill our mission for cooperating for a fairer world. So when one of my member pioneers, Nadine, put me in touch with Francis, that was kind of the start of all sorts of things rolling along rather nicely, including the community hubs. So the community hubs were amazing experiences with huge numbers of really like-minded people who wanted to get things done in the local community. And that, I think, is where we need to sort of pick this up from now on, in that we're looking to make things happen. You guys have been doing an amazing job so far, and it's great that you're reaching out to people like me to see if we can help and support you along the way a little bit. So one of the things that we're looking to do is to create climate cafes. So these are for people who are experiencing anxiety about climate change. Are they doing enough? Are they doing too much? Are they not doing the right sorts of things? Where are we all headed with this, etc., etc. So this is an opportunity for people to meet together and express how they feel, and for us perhaps to see if we can support them in some way as well. So we're looking to run those initially within the Forest Road Health Centre, which was one of the locations for one of the community hubs. And we're also hoping, and Peter is on this call, so we're hoping that we might have something in Space Generators as well, that amazing building you've got there with some fantastic things going on. So that's one side of what we're looking to do, perhaps on a monthly basis. And we're looking for people to help and support with that as well, from a facilitation point of view, and contributing ideas, etc. So that's one thing. The other side of that is the climate hubs, and this is where the action comes in. So putting together ideas and experience from all of these wonderful groups that are connecting here with so much experience, and actually making things happen in the community. So bringing all of those together with the community so that we can all work together. And we're looking to run those monthly. And again, I'm hoping that Peter will be the venue, Space Generators will be the venue for that as well, who I'm sure Peter will speak later about climate emergency centres, and there's an obvious synergy there that I'm hoping we will be able to grow and really make a huge impact with those. So if anybody has any questions about co-op or anything, you want to put that in the chat, or about the climate cafes, climate hubs, etc., then please do speak to me a bit more about that.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. I mean, seeing you're here, Peter, do you want to just spend a couple minutes, not much longer because we've got a long agenda, just talking about Space Generators and what you've got on offer there? You'll have to unmute.
Okay, thank you, Francis. All right, just a quick couple of minutes. Hello, my name's Phoenix, that's my nickname, or Peter. I'm from Space Generators charity. I'm one of the trustees. Basically, personally, I've been running eco community centres for about 30 years, the charity for about 7 years now. And the aim is to get vacant property and turn it into environment and community centre spaces. We've got a massive building here in Cockfosters. It's right on the border of, it's in Enfield, but borders with Barnet, right opposite Cockfosters Tube. Any of you is welcome to arrange a time to come and have a visit. We want this to complement and work with many other groups in the borough. Basically, we get buildings on meanwhile leases, and we would like to, make this an Enfield Climate Emergency Centre, fill it with as many great activities as possible. We already had a big delegation from EnCaf, about 8 people one day, about another 6 the next day. What we're currently doing is compiling a list of groups that expressed interest to maybe use space for a talk, a workshop, a training, or a cinema night, so that we can send that to the council. That helps us get this place for longer. So basically, Francis has got a contact, and Vicky and a few other people there, and Jerry who came. You're most welcome to arrange a day to come visit, or every Monday 7 p.m. we have a general meeting. It's a massive 5-story old data center. We've got a great big 300-foot long hall that can be used, and other office spaces and workshop spaces, and podcast studio, and we're hoping to get all manner of amazing events, talks, workshops and trainings going on. And then it's not just about this one building, it's about using more of the empty buildings around the borough for these things and keeping it rolling. So I think that's about my 2 minutes. But if you check out spacegenerators.org or Climate Emergency Centre posts at the beginning, that's my 2 minutes.
Okay, that's pretty good. That is 2 minutes. It's a lot. That's great. No, I mean that provides great opportunities to work with Peter and his colleague Linda, and I think we're looking at other things, even maybe doing a community energy exhibition as well, which Linda I know is keen on. Okay, well, thank you for that. Next thing is me talking about MP Watch. We thought that what we would do was also develop a project called MP Watch. We know that in under 2 years a general election will happen, and we need not to just engage our council, but also engage MPs about local issues, national issues and global issues, because they're all interlinked. I did this in the United Nations Association, the local one, many years ago, where we asked our 3 MPs then, Stephen Twigg, Andy Love and Joan Ryan, to take part in answering questions once a month that we sent to them, and they did. And in those days, there weren't the social networks like there are now, Twitter and Facebook, just websites, so we couldn't disseminate it much. But now we've got that. So we thought that we would try to have an MP's Watch with our 3 MPs starting in March, and asking them questions. It could be the same questions, or it could be a different question to each MP. And we thought we would ask all our groups if they had questions they want to ask to submit it. And we'll try and put those in. Obviously, if we've got 100 questions, we've got to decide which ones go. But we would really like to do that from March. And Bambos has already agreed that Bambos, Sharon Lambos take place. We've got to get the others to agree now. We're also working with a national group called MP Watch, who stole our name. Well, they didn't, but it's a nice name to have. And they are working towards trying to get as many MPs as possible to engage with climate change. And we're going to link with them. We're talking with them, and Vicky's involved with that as well, to try and get them to make sure their website includes all types of MPs, not just the deniers, but all types of MPs that engage, so we have constructive engagement. And then our MPs will go on that site with MPs from across the country. And as the election comes along, we also hope to include candidates as well. Now, it's going to take some organisation, but we're beginning it now, and we've had several meetings, and we hope we'll start that in March. Okay, now the next one is that in the hubs, we talked about climate ambassadors, and the person whose idea that was, first of all, was Chandra Bhatia, who's from the Enfield Racial Equality Council, and they were our partners in doing the Community Hub project. So Chandra, do you want to tell us about the climate ambassadors?
Yeah, I won't take very long actually to tell this, because the idea is there, but we haven't done anything very much on it yet. The reason I thought of it was that I felt that there was a tremendous need to raise awareness within the various minority communities in particular, especially the newer arrivals in the borough, because there's a lot of confusion about even the basic information about recycling and what you can recycle, what you can't recycle, what is climate change, how it's affecting us, and why it should be of any concern when there's tremendous amount of inequalities that that are there with regard to health in any case, and COVID exposed that. And but there is another aspect which is about actually the effect it actually has on people who live in accommodation that may be inappropriate. You can't heat it properly or you can't cool it properly, and the heat stress and social isolation, all kinds of issues are affecting BAME groups in particular, but they're not necessarily getting linked by them to the adverse effects of climate change. So I felt that it was important that we actually started to do some community awareness on that. And the best way to do it, I felt, was to actually have people from within the communities to actually learn a little bit about it and to go and work within their community, not work, at least influence or talk to people within their communities about these issues in a sort of very natural way, so that it's not sort of like forced down people's throats as a new thing that they have to learn about, but something that they could actually raise in conversations or in any kind of way that wherever they talk to people in their own WhatsApp groups, neighborhood groups, whatever. So we asked for volunteers, and I know that Francis has a list of about 7 or 8, at least, if not more, people who volunteered to be the ambassadors for climate change and health. And I think that it'd be useful to actually develop that quite soon. But I'll be talking to Helen Price. We've mentioned it. We have actually had a few discussions with her about the role of what I would initially call them as health champions, but now we're calling them health ambassadors, to actually learn from how she has developed health champions over the years and into a major project that's been very successful. And the way that they health champions work within communities, they're derived from organizations and communities, and then they go work back in their community to raise awareness about health issues in general. So I'm hoping that we can actually do something very similar, but but we may need to actually have substantive training and involvement and sort of like regular meetings, et cetera, to empower them, to inform these individuals in the first instance. So we're hoping that we can actually develop some of this work in the near future. But I think we're going to be needing some resources to do so. So I've been looking at the kind of places we can get a little bit of money from, just to set it off and set it up so that it's consistent. That it's not just that we engage them for a few months, but something that we can substantially work with in a way that people get information and then they share that information, then they come back for support, and they actually, have a forum for themselves that they can actually, come back to and learn from and share ideas. Excellent. And their concerns and frustrations. So that was the idea.
Okay, thanks very much. And if anybody else is interested in that and wants to look at how they can be an ambassador, please contact myself or Chandra, and we're going to try and develop that in this coming year. Now, recently we met Ahmed. Ahmed is here on top row of my screen anyhow, and he is very passionate about community energy. Many boroughs in London have community energy projects. We don't in Enfield, Haringey does, and I think we have Pam on the call today as well, and she's from Haringey, and they have a really successful community energy project. So Ahmed, over to you with what we can do in the future with our network and your network and the council and everyone else around community energy.
Thank you, Francis, for inviting me to this meeting. I was quite fortunate to meet you, and I would like to thank Pamela, who introduced us together. And Pamela will hopefully be helping me out as well in this. We are at an early stage. We've had our first meeting with the council. Francis was there, and as was Pamela, and they are they're looking very positively at this this step that we're taking. I've had I've been attending Community Energy London meetings for quite a while now, possibly 3-4 years, and that's where I've met Pamela. and the dedication that people have I've seen, and the experience that they've gained. They've actually encouraged me to set one up when I saw that there was a gap in the community energy group in Enfield, and we've talked about a couple of possible projects. One being the rooftop solar installation on top of the new multi-story car park at the North Middlesex Hospital, but we need to that needs more research. We need to get obviously the okay from the hospital itself, and it'll probably be a bit of a big project, but I don't know if we're ready for that yet. But yeah, it's still early days. Community energy is a growing movement. It is all over the country, as I'm sure you guys know, and more projects are getting online, and bigger companies they're actually seeing this, and there's an affiliation of Octopus Energy. They're actually giving out loans for people to set up projects. So it is a big movement. Yeah, and I do look forward to taking this forward as well. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Francis, for that.
Okay, thanks. So now if anybody's interested in working with Ahmed and other people on developing community energy, please let us know, because there are a lot of things we can do, talking about the North Middlesex Hospital, solar panels on schools and creating, energy that way. There's so many things we could do. So please let us know if you'd like to be involved in that as well. And now, Tim, you have been involved in the waste group and you've done a lot of work, and I know you probably have plans for the future. So would you like to tell us about what you plan?
Yes. Okay, Francis, can I share my screen for a few slides? Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that okay? Do we have it?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, and so then I need to find. Okay, so hello everybody. We're the waste group. We were set up in January 21. We started off researching a number of topics around waste, for example, low landfill recycling, incineration, recycling alternatives to council services, and consumer research on bad recycling and how to improve it. Okay, so we felt that if there's communication on recycling, especially formalistic council leaflets, was not very effective. We thought it would be better to try to improve the communication from friendly residents. This is where the Tony's Tips ideas come from, of a slightly quirky, in effect, just an information sheet. We did 2 stalls at the Green Fair last year, and at which we spoke to a lot of people, and we felt that there was a lot of interest in improving recycling, but quite a lot of confusion or lack of clarity. We developed a quiz and some games, and that was engaging as far as children were concerned, and we'd like to continue in this vein. So these are the Tony's tips we did in 21 on general reducing waste, recycling, plastic waste, and composting. And then that was our stall at the Apple Day. Lots of, at the Apple Day, we met lots of more well-to-do people from Palmer's Green who were obviously who were very interested, and we had a lot of very positive discussions. Okay, so we meet usually once a month. We did an update last February about the DEFRA waste statistics, and we'll do one again this year if DEFRA do publish them this year. We found a speaker for EnCaf on heat pumps. More importantly, we expanded our scope. We've now got 4 new Tony's tips. We decided to start with sustainable food choices. And when we presented that at the Apple Day last year, that raised a lot of interest, and I was very, we ran out of copies. We also did a new quiz on food choices, which was interesting, and it works well in a discussion for communicating information rather than testing it. We also did a Tony's tips on making sustainable choices for your Christmas celebrations, and we got a lot of distribution for that, especially electronic. So those were our tips for 2022. And so what are we looking forward to? Well, first of all, we would like to do more stalls and more distribution of our tip sheets. We think the primary audience that we should focus on is the more well-off people, because they have higher footprints, bigger houses, use more energy, travel more, consume more. We'd like to expand particularly in sustainable food choices, because the quizzes and games are appealing to children. We would like to become involved with schools. 2 of us in the group are in local churches, and we've distributed our materials there, and certainly in one case we're trying to get involved with the local school. We are working on new fact sheets which are about sustainable transport and fast fashion and clothing issues, and how to make sustainable choices in that very complicated area. And lastly, we would love to have more members in our group. So there you go, Francis.